What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Progressive Gentleman Podcast. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Dan.
I'm Matt.
And thanks for taking the time to nerd out about music with us. I like that switch up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, keep it fresh.
Yeah. And, if you're listening to us on Spotify, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or any other medium, be sure to click that like, that follow, that subscribe button. It all helps us out a lot. And also, this episode is brought to you by Eargasm Earplugs. I mean, ever since I finally started wearing earplugs to a show, reluctantly, I will add, because my wife works in ENT, and she's like, "You're going to be deaf by the time you're 50." And rather than accept that challenge, I decided to just sort of give in and bought myself a pair of Eargasm earplugs. And it's crazy. I didn't realize that there was an option to not have your ears ringing at the end of a show. So would highly recommend these. Been using them for 4 years now, and I'm not looking back. So eargasm.com, use code gentleman10 at checkout, and you'll get a little discount. And I would highly recommend it. And now that we're done with that part of it, let's jump into the episode. This is going to be a general transmission episode. So, we're just going to bullshit a little bit for you guys, and hopefully give you some good content. Matt, it's nice to actually be looking at your face here.
It's been a while since we actually got to hang out. So it's nice to doing a podcast and getting to hang out and
most of the recent episodes have been digital. Matt's a busy guy with his schooling and his work, and it's hard being a student and working full time. I don't know personally, and I'm not crazy enough to do that, but you are, and that's great.
I am certified crazy.
But and then life stuff with both of us. I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on outside of work and for you school. So always busy. Sorry, it's been we're starting to get a cadence going a little bit more, and there'll be more gaps too. Who knows how this is going to all play out? But
we try and get as many as we can in and get them out to try and keep some semblance of consistency. But it is both of our schedules are a little difficult to make that work all the time. For
sure. And in the meantime, we try to at least post a little bit of social media content, get some other things out there, and we try to at least stay in communication with everybody listening to this, and everyone not listening to this as well, I suppose. I mean,
yeah.
But we actually just hit a slight milestone, not a major milestone, but we finally crossed over 500 followers on Instagram. That's not a huge number, but for a small little operation like ours, that's kind of a cool number to hit. So so it feels good to see that, and we really appreciate the support. We just did a giveaway a little bit ago. Where we gave away a signed CD, Language by the Contortionist. Thank you to everyone who entered. Congratulations to the winner. We're not going to say names, just I don't know if,
Yeah.
You never know. So, but congratulations to the person who won. You know who you are. And, we'll see what the next giveaway is, when the next giveaway is going to be. We have some ideas. We also would like to get a little more engagement on these giveaways too. So, maybe we'll make it a little bigger next time. I don't know. We'll see. I'm also nervous that if we make it bigger and still no one enters, it's like, oh man. But but anyways, thanks again for everyone who did enter and played along with our shenanigans. So not too much going on over here in relations to like music, concert stuff. I mean, we listen to music all the damn time. That's just kind of our existence. But not a whole lot of concerts super recently. I mean, what's you went and saw a local show. You saw
Nefel, Haven State, a band from New York called Secret Gardens, and Space Weather. I think that was all of them. I just rattled off the top of my head, but yeah, they're all local bands except for Secret Gardens is from like upstate New York, I think they said.
Yeah.
So still fairly
relatively local, and all great progressive bands. We really try to support local music as much as we can and try to shout those guys out as much as we can. And not just because they're local, but we genuinely like their music, and we feel like you guys would as well. So that's why we try
absolutely. And Space Weather had a single come out just a couple weeks ago. In addition to the one that came out maybe a couple months ago.
I feel like their last was it a couple months ago or I feel
Maybe it
like
was like a
their
month
one
ago,
single
but
was like a while ago. Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's like
Pyroclasm came out a couple
yeah.
months ago, and then they just had one come out like maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Silent Hex. That
Yeah,
song was real good. The video's pretty entertaining too.
yeah.
Jake's stash is just I don't know, it does it for me. I like the stash, Jake. Definitely keep that going. It has a life of its own almost. I kind of want a space weather T-shirt with just the stash.
Jigsaw stash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're taking requests for merch, but I would rock that. I would rock. Regardless, hoodie, T-shirt, maybe a little pair of short shorts. I'd rock them. But all right, that was a little. Anyways, but yeah, those guys are great. How was that show?
It was awesome. It was a pretty small venue. So it was a very like intimate show. There was there weren't a ton of people, but it was like for the venue, like it felt decently crowded. And I feel like the people that were there were getting really into it. So it was
Nice.
it was a lively show. It didn't feel like everybody was just kind of like dead standing there
Yeah.
just staring blankly.
Yeah, and we might have already talked about this show on an episode, but just as far as recent concerts go, I mean, that's because I think we had Space Weather. We did Space Weather for a Hidden Gem, so we might have briefly touched on.
I'm trying to think. I think the show might have been after
That's
it
possible.
though.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember talking about the
Yeah,
show
it's
on the podcast.
you can tell
so-
it's been a little while since I mean,
Yeah.
we're finally starting to sort of get episodes back out, but it's been a little while. Yeah, I didn't get to go to that show, unfortunately. I had, as we said, life stuff pops up, and
Yeah.
so
You
I had
got
to,
merch though.
I did, and I've been trying to flaunt that merch a little bit on some recent
Yeah, check out the
reels and TikTok videos and such. So if you're not following us on Instagram or TikTok, definitely jump over there, give us a follow. We're starting, like I said, we crossed the 500 threshold. We're actually already fastly approaching 600. So
Yeah.
thank you to everyone who continues to follow us. But if you're not following us on either of those, definitely jump on that. But yeah, we've been putting out some new sort of real TikTok content, which has been cool. Instagram reel, TikTok, whatever works. And when TikTok gets banned, it'll just be all Instagram reels. So, but yeah, and for me, I mean, like I said, I didn't get to go to that show, but I've been to a couple shows since that I didn't get to go with you. But I went and saw Steve Vai. That was pretty cool. He's ancient, but still shreds like way better than I ever will.
The Prague Father.
Yeah, he's very impressive still. So that was a really cool show. And then I actually went to a show that I had not heard of them. My neighbor actually introduced me to a band called the Winery Dogs. And he listens to a lot of like cool progressive music as well. And so he showed me them, and it has Portnoy on drums from Dream Theater. And then it also has Richie Kotzen and Billy Sheehan. It's they would probably consider it like a prog super group, older guys for the most part, but damn, those guys can shred too. So that was a pretty cool show to see. And if you've not checked out the Winery Dogs, definitely check them out. More in the progressive rock, alt rock vein, but they get busy. They get busy on some of those songs.
Yeah,
so.
it's not what you would expect with Portnoy on drums. Like,
right.
I would definitely like hearing that like first track that you played for me. I was like, really? This is Portnoy? Like, it's kind of surprising, but it's cool. Their music's good.
And if you've never heard Billy Sheehan play bass, god damn. I have a video on TikTok of him just going off. Definitely check that out if you've not seen it.
That's an awesome video.
It's insane. The guy can groove, and yeah, I mean I would almost say Richie's vocals are reminiscent of like Chris Cornell almost even. So I get like Audio Slave Soundgarden vibes a little bit from the Winery Dogs. Just for a comp to throw out there. Nobody is the same as Chris Cornell, and I can't, there's definitely not a 1-to-1, but if I had, gun to my head, give a comp, I would say like Audio Slave, Soundgarden, somewhere in there. But really cool. That show was a cool experience. Had somebody actually, and this is a tangent, but that's kind of what we do here. I was wearing a Between the Buried and Me hoodie, at the Winery Dogs show and actually had somebody approach me about it and like talk to me, and I did not expect that at all. I really didn't. But BT Bam's one of my favorite bands, whatever. And I actually like, I'm pretty sure I was like, oh, we have a podcast, check us out. So if you're listening to this, I don't remember your name. But if you saw me at a Winery Dogs show and we talked about Between the Bear to Me, what's up, man? But yeah, I mean, prog is just, it's a spectrum of just, there's the softer stuff, the heavier stuff, and most of us like a nice array of it. So you never know who you're going to run into at a show.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
I mean,
cool.
Even at an OAR show, like I was wearing a Coheed hoodie at that point, which if you don't know who OAR is, they're very much like jam band, like in the vein of like a Dave Matthews almost. And had like 4 or 5 people comment on my hoodie. So it's kind of cool, to see how many of us are out there. But yeah, honestly, those are the only 2 shows I've been to recently. I know we have a couple on the docket, and there's a couple that I want to go to.
Yeah.
Coheed announced a tour. Did you get tickets to that? I got tickets to that.
Not yet. I'm want to very much.
All right.
But
figure that out. But I know I got tickets. My wife and I will definitely be going to that one. So we'll talk about that. They're touring with Deaf Haven. That's going to be super interesting.
I'm excited for that tour, honestly. Like I really hope I can go because that's a cool mix to me.
I like Deaf Haven. I saw them open for Gojira, which that was a cool show.
That sounds where they belong.
Yeah. And so thinking about them opening for Coheed, and Coheed fans, God love them. I love you all, Children of the Fence, but y'all can be brutal on opening acts. I mean, the show in Pittsburgh, Between the Bear to Me, actually reposted like a Pittsburgh Post-Gazette article about some guy who went to the show and just ripped into Between the Bear to Me, calling them like chaotic and like unlistenable and all this crazy stuff. So then like I was like, they're never gonna come back to Pittsburgh because of this asshole. And really it's just because like Coheed fans were also just tearing into Between the Bear to Me. And that was like the greatest tour I've ever, like Russian circles Between the Bear to Me and Coheed and Cambria.
That's like a dream
that is,
tour.
I was so happy. I don't think I've ever bought tickets faster. And so understanding how Coheed fans act towards opening acts and understanding who Deaf Haven is. Granted, their new record's a little more accessible. There's not as much of like the black metal style vocal.
It's definitely still there though.
It is still there, but it's more subtle in spots, and there are some songs where I don't even know if it's there. So it's on the record. It's in the record, but it's one of those things where if they play anything off of like Sungazer or Sunbather, sorry, I don't know why I said Sungazer. That was a band that I've recently looked up. Check them out. But it's just I don't know how Coheed fans are going to handle that.
Yeah, if they didn't like BT Bam, I'm not
This is
sure.
I think there are a lot like Selkies and stuff like there are more accessible Between the Bear to Me songs than there are older Deaf Haven songs.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm curious about how that goes. But if all else fails, if I'm going to that show, I'll be the one person to be like, yeah.
Oh, I'll be there. I'll be pumped too. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But I have tickets to that. Hopefully, you'll get tickets to that. Another show I have tickets to that you hopefully will get tickets to is Between the Bear to Me announced a tour with Thank You Scientist and Rivers of Nile.
That show is just like so perfectly weird.
It is.
I'm so excited for that. Like, I really want to go to that one. I'm hoping that my my course schedule for the semester works out, that I'll be able to go.
For sure. So hopefully that all works out and we're able to both go to those shows. But if not, at least I'll have something to talk about. So
yeah.
And I know Pliny and Jacob Zytecki and
that was the other one.
And is that who's?
I forget. I don't remember.
Is that Sungazer? Is that why I looked them up or something like that?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So so that would be awesome. I definitely want to go to that if I can swing it. That's soon, I think.
Yeah,
that's so soon that it might be like it might have happened by the time this episode airs. So TBD on that. But that tour is going around, so definitely check that out. And if we get to go to it, or one of us gets to go to it, we'll definitely talk about it on a future episode. But Yeah, that's kind of really all that we have on the docket as far as concerts goes. What kind of music have you been jamming lately? I know for me, I've been heavily into that Sleep Token shit.
Yeah, I've been listening to that a lot. A lot of just put on Sleep Token on shuffle and listen to everything. It's definitely been my thing. Just recently, Crypto Dira put out a single called Tragic, so I've been listening to that a little bit. And then that kind of made me deep dive into some Dillinger a little.
Ooh,
I haven't listened to them in a long
that's been a
time,
long time. I don't. Oh man,
and so I was kind of like
that's cool.
randomly went down that rabbit hole.
I'm gonna have to go down that rabbit hole because it's been a while. It's been a long time since I've listened to Dillinger.
Yeah, it was a fun afternoon listening to them. Um, then there was a band that popped up on my TikTok feed called Grieve.
Yeah, you were telling me about them. I need to check them out.
Yeah, they're like metalcore, hardcore, death metal with some progressive elements in there combination. They're pretty heavy. I the snippet that I heard on TikTok was really good, so I was just like, all right. Well, immediately I went over to Spotify and searched it so I could come back to them later because it was like a in bed looking at TikTok thing, and I was like, all right, I will come back to you tomorrow.
I like take screenshots just to like, and then I probably never look at them again. If I go through my photos in my phone, I'd probably find all these bands that I wanted to check out. Um,
Yeah, I've also been like doing some shoegaze stuff lately.
okay,
It was like some Holy Fawn,
all right.
um, kind of like still in the vein of like progressive stuff, but
Where Deaf Haven's kind of like blackened shoegaze.
yeah, yeah, kind of in that. So that makes me want to like listen to Deaf Haven a little more too. Um, yeah, I think in the way of like relevant music that would be worth talking about to people on the that listen to this podcast. Those are probably like the main ones that I've been jamming
Yes,
lately.
Sleep Token a lot, and then we talked about in the last episode how we did like a deep dive on Reddit for similar songs to the stuff or the summoning. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
my brain just like drew a blank there. Like that end part, like funky breakdown groove thing at the end. So I've also been listening to Nightlife a lot because that's kind of the comp that we found. That song
Yeah.
New Low is really good, so I've been jamming that a lot. Strangely enough, not strangely enough, it's not that strange. Landmarks has a song called Lost in a Wave. We put it on Jams of the Week at one point, but I can't stop listening to that song because it reminds me of old Stick to Your Guns, like
Yeah.
Hope Division era Stick to Your Guns with like a filthy breakdown in the middle.
Yeah.
So
That
I
breakdown is gnarly.
I've been listening to that a lot and a little bit of some of the new stuff that's come out. So Haken dropped a new record. That was pretty recent. And so I've been jamming. It's called Fauna. If people don't know that this is out or whatever. Haken has a new record called Fauna. And it's quite interesting. It's they said basically like that this was going to be one of their more experimental records and
That checks
similar
out.
similar to how Coheed when they dropped Vaxxus 2 they were like this is going to test the fan base. Like Haken was kind of putting out similar messages but saying like how much of their heart and soul was poured into this record and all that stuff and how proud and excited they are for it and whatever. So I had mixed emotions going into it when it dropped because that song Alphabet of Me, that was one of the singles. Um definitely I was definitely picking up why they were like this is going to test the fan base. Because it was a little strange, but there were parts of it that I was like this is amazing. There were other parts of it where I was like am I watching like a Eurovision like
Yeah, it's like very like Euro poppy
yeah,
kind
like
of.
I don't know. And so again, there's parts of that track that I really liked, parts that I didn't. So I was like, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this record. Ultimately, I land firmly in the middle on this record. There's like 50% of this record I'm a huge fan of. Sempiternal Beings is a really good track. If you follow our Jams of the Week playlist, it was on there. It might be like a couple weeks ago it was on there. And Taurus is a good song. Nightingale is a good song. I think that's actually the first single they released. Um, Yeah, so there's definitely stuff to enjoy that I feel like is, if you liked Haken and any of the stuff that they've done in the past, you would like these tracks. Like, I don't think those are too experimental to where like your normal in the box Haken fan would be like, oh, I turn my nose up at this. So there's something for existing fans, but it does get experimental.
Yeah, it gets like uh the was it the White Rainbow one? Is like it's like the first part of it is like the majority of the song I really like it and like the instrumentation is good, but then like towards the end there's like a weird
Or it
like
sounds like he's yelling into a megaphone, like
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like he's recording the output from a megaphone into the microphone, and it's like you can't understand what he's saying, and it's like I don't know. That part was kind of like jarring to me. But like the rest of the song was pretty good, and I like Love Bite a lot. And then Sempiternal Beings is good. And like you said, the Alphabet of Me part of that song I really enjoy parts, and then there are other parts where I'm kind of like, I don't know how I feel.
Yeah, I don't even hate like some of the synthy stuff. It's just some of the way the vocals flow, like, come off as just weird to me. It's a little poppy, a little 80s pop synth, whatever, which is fine. And I get into, and there's like a weird sort of like slow breakdown type thing at the end where it's, for lack of a better word, it's a breakdown. It's not like a traditional like metal breakdown. It's just a slow, sort of groovy chanting breakdown at the end, which I actually like that part of the song. But you're right, the Beneath the White Rainbow or whatever, it's like almost a 7-minute song, and the first like 5 minutes are like to the point where I'm like, all right, it gets a little weird at times, but I can groove with this, and then it switches up to that weird like megaphone sounding thing,
Yeah,
and it's just like kind of like
yeah, and it's kind of like
took
that,
the wind out of my sails for the song. Like I was real into it.
Yeah, and it kind of gives you like that lasting because it's like towards the end,
right? Yeah, it's like the last 2 minutes where it's similar. It's kind of like switches to that direction.
Yeah, and so you're kind of like leave the song being like, that was strange, and
Yeah,
like overall, I don't think the album is bad or anything, but it's just like I think I had higher hopes for it, and it went like very experimental, and there are parts where it almost felt like jarring to me, and maybe like with a few more listens through it, it will kind of sink in more because I know like the first time I listened through it, I only got like 3 or 4 tracks in, and I was like, I don't know if I like this, and kind of like stopped listening. But then I went back through and was like, I kind of dig this. So maybe just kind of one of those deals that it like grows on you if you listen to it a couple times.
yeah, and I mean like their most recent 2 records before that, Vector and Virus, that kind of came out back to back ish during like the pandemic situation. Were so good in my opinion that it was like I had high expectations because of how quickly the turnaround time happened for those records and still how like high quality they were. Not that this album isn't high quality, it's just different. And I went on a rant the last podcast episode about how like progression and the bands are supposed to do that, and then it's good for them to do that. It's good to step out of your comfort zone, try something different, try to pull in new audience, rather than remaining stagnant. So I do believe they do that on this record.
Yeah, for sure.
And like The Mountain and Affinity are just such all-time records for me in progressive metal that Affinity especially. I know a lot of people are partial to The Mountain, but Affinity is one of my favorite records, progressive metal records. So all of those records and then this one dropping, for me it was just not, the direction that they progressed into wasn't necessarily my cup of tea.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, it's still a good record. It still has songs that I think I can, there's replay value there. So definitely check it out.
Yeah.
And, if you like Haken, if you like progressive music and you've never listened to Haken, I think it's there are accessible songs. Haken is an accessible band. They don't do too much. Like some people are just like, oh, if the vocals are harsh, I'm not going to listen to it. They don't really do that. So Haken's a band that I would show to someone who I would go to like the Winery Dog show with, or to like you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I think the harshest vocals are that like microphone thing at the end of the
yeah,
rainbow thing.
honestly,
And it's not like harsh in the, it's like just harsh in that it's jarring, not
yeah,
like
it's
they're
a switch up, and it's not just normal clean singing. There's some
yeah.
effect to the vocal.
But yeah, otherwise, like I do feel like the album is pretty approachable. Like some people might be like, "Oh, this is weird" because of like the change ups, but I don't think like any of it is like, "Oh, it's screamy or scary" or anything. Like if
Yeah,
you were to play it for like your family or something,
for sure.
they might just be like, "Oh, you like different music."
Yeah, like
But
there are Haken songs I would show my dad.
yeah,
Um, but anyways, so Haken Fauna, that record is out. We're kind of in the middle on
yeah,
it. But there's definitely something for everyone on there. And if you like the more experimental stuff, this might be the record for you. So definitely check it out. Um, Less experimental. And sort of more like what you've come to expect. There's still some experimental stuff on this record that we're about to talk about here. Periphery.
yeah. I left them off of my bands that we were talking about earlier, like what we've been jamming
Yeah.
lately. Figure
You
I'd
just want
just
to leave it
unleash
all,
here.
keep the meat on the bone here.
Yeah.
They released a new record. Gent is not a genre. Is it a genre?
It is.
We feel, or is it a lifestyle?
I guess
Or
if
is
you
it
want to go,
both?
yes. Why not both?
That's yeah. Leave it to Periphery to make an album called Gent is not a genre.
And they somehow missed using spelling genre with a DJ.
Oh, they blew it. I mean, they should have called us. We would have helped
Yeah,
out. I mean, jams, DJ, AMS. You know,
Yeah.
we know what to do. We know what's up. But yeah. I mean, this record was kind of what I expected this record to be, minus a couple songs. There are a couple songs on there that threw me for a loop.
Yeah.
But overall, it sounded like a continuation of their last record.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And like there were like two parts that I think it was like there's a riff on this album that sounds like Church Burner, and another one that I think it's from Blood Eagle, that they sound like
I was gonna say,
very
honestly,
similar
the
riffs.
opening riff of Wildfire sounds like just a slightly modified version of the opening riff for Blood Eagle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I mean, and I picked that up pretty. I mean, and it's the opening track on both, isn't it? Like is Blood Eagle the opening track on P4?
I can't remember if it's the opening track or not.
Regardless,
But
no,
yeah,
Reptile is. Damn it. But anyways, regardless, it's there. It's very simple. But then I even said whenever we were talking about this earlier, I was like, well, there's only so many like configurations you can put ones and zeros in. To, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, there are some similarities to where it's like, all right, did you recycle some riffs? But overall, I mean, it's still different. And they do some experimentation. Like I said, I feel like the biggest example of that is the song Silhouette.
yeah. I was just gonna say, like, I think Spencer is being able to show his range even more and like his progression of his vocals over time. Like
He's even doing some different like heavy vocal styles, I've noticed. Like
Yeah.
he's even experimenting with some of like the different harsh vocals. Like highs and lows, like he's mixing things up. He's always been known for his highs because of who he is and his just general sound, like how he sings.
Yeah.
But I feel like he gets real into some of the lows in this record at times. But Silhouette is like the outlier where it's like
definitely the outlier.
like how would you classify that song?
I would just like basically just like straight put it into like 80s.
Yeah, it's
like
very
synth pop.
it's like that seems to be a theme. Like Coheed did it, Haken did it. You know, there's a lot of like interesting 80s synth like style sort of taking over.
Yeah.
Everyone watch Stranger Things. That's
Yeah,
just
I
that's
think-
all I can, like, every single person, every progressive metal artist just really got into Stranger Things and decided to like that was a influence on their new records. Like it has to be.
Yeah, I think the 80s stuff is coming back in a big way this past few years, and you're seeing a lot of influence in a lot of music. Like I think just like the whole like synth wave stuff is just like in from an EDM standpoint, You know, it's just like you're getting like a lot of synthwave music that's getting popular or more popular, and then like it's getting injected into a lot of other genres of music. And yeah, that song is just like it is like I know how we were talking about like disconnection with like Haken stuff, and like
Right.
this song is like purely disconnected, but I think the way they do it is like the song itself is disconnected, but if you look at the song Silhouette like by itself, it's one cohesive song. Like it doesn't have like jarring separations in the song.
Yeah.
So I think then like it flows back into like heavier, you know, your expected Periphery stuff.
Yeah, and it's smack dab in the middle of the record, so it's almost like a palate cleanser for the second half.
Yeah,
Like it's almost just like take a breather.
it's
And
like
then go into,
intermission.
yeah, so I can see that, and it makes sense. They probably like it's probably put in the middle on purpose for that reason. To just to sort of separate. Like it's almost like taking a breath before moving on, because there's some lengthy songs on this record. I mean,
Yeah.
the last two tracks alone are both 11 plus minutes. So,
Yeah.
I mean, welcome to progressive music, but I know one of those is one of you. I think the longest track on the record's like your favorite track on the record, isn't it? The Drackle Gra or whatever.
Yeah, I keep calling it Dracar Noir.
Dracar Noir.
Yeah, I really like that
Drink
track.
responsibly. um, oh no, that's not even
I was
alcohol.
just
That's
saying,
like
isn't it a cologne?
wow. Don't drink that at all.
Yeah.
That'll end very
Make sure
bad.
to drink responsibly, as
Yeah,
in don't
as in
drink it.
don't drink. Damn, I don't know why my brain was like that's a vodka or a tequila. Or
It does
some
kind of
shit.
sound like
Doesn't
it could be
It
like
should
a...
be. It should be. Well, don't drink cologne, kids. I love it.
Well, they already had the bottle in hand, ready to go. They did a shot of Dracar Noir. Thanks, thanks,
man.
Dan.
I'm sorry to take that from you all, but yeah. Anyways, that song is pretty sweet. It's crazy that's like, well, it's not crazy because it's 12 minutes long. I was like, that's the least listened to song on Spotify right now, but
it has been out for less than 24 hours, so
I don't care. people, I don't know. It has like 1,000 plays. Like you would think it would have more than that, you know, even 24 hours. But regardless, what about like Dying Star? I feel like that's the song that's standing out to me right now. And it sort of starts, it's weird that I've talked about this band as a comp so much because it's hard to comp a band to a lesser known band. But the beginning gives me like Silver Snake's like the like industrial sound like of that song. Like it's short lived and it's nothing remotely close to what Silver Snakes does as a whole, but there's very much like that industrial sound, and I don't know why when I think industrial and like prog or like heavy music, I go to Silver Snakes, probably just because I don't want to talk about New North Lane.
Yeah, I do like Dying Star as well. Like I don't dislike any song on this album. Like I think it's a good album from front to back. I definitely like I want to listen to it more and like have it fully sink in before I'm like committing to like a ranking.
Yeah.
But I think I like P4 a little better, but I do really like this album so far, and you know it may grow on me to the point where it surpasses, but you know that P4 was pretty high on my list.
Yeah, I never got super into P4. I wasn't a huge fan of P3. I love P2. That's an all-time record for me. In progressive metal. And probably just in general. Like if I had to pick a top 10, that's probably in there. We did that, didn't we? Was it in there? I'll have to go back and look.
We did. And
it probably was.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It probably was. But for me, I like this record a little bit better than 3 and 4. I agree. I need to spend more time with it, especially since at the time of recording this, it's only been out for 24 hours. So
yeah.
I've listened to it like 1 3/4 times.
Yeah.
So that's not really enough to fully formulate an opinion. But I think there's a couple more standout tracks to me on this record than the previous two. Like Marigold was a standout and Blood Eagle was a standout. for the last couple records.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
then,
personally, for me, like P4 has a ton. As a Blood Eagle, Church Burner, Reptile, It's Only Smile, Satellite.
yeah, I mean, I don't
I
know.
don't I enjoy all of those. So
And I could probably I could probably spend more time with P4 as well. I kind of listened to it 2 or 3 times, and I put the songs that stood out to me into a playlist and then never revisited the entire
yeah,
collected work. So could probably spend more time with it and see. And honestly, just for the sake of curiosity, I'm gonna do that while listening to the, like, I'm gonna do a compare for
we
myself.
should make now that they've got 5 albums, we could do a artist spotlight
All right,
and kind of do a ranking on
yeah,
Periphery.
and that'll
I'm
give me
down
a
for
reason
that.
to go back and listen to their early records too.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, let's definitely do that. That'll be our next artist spotlight. We're gonna do a Periphery artist spotlight. Come into a podcast streaming service near you, but yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's not crazy because these new records are coming out, and then I keep finding myself going back to the Sleep Token singles.
Yeah.
And I hate being that guy because I know, like, Sleep Token is like the new Spirit Box. Like, they're getting just way over talked about, way overplayed, whatever. But like Spirit Box back when this was happening initially, and with songs like Blessed Be and Roll of Nines, like, those songs they deserved the spotlight.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think with songs like The Summoning and Vor and Granite, like, they deserve the spotlight right now.
Yeah, and honestly, like the fact that like Vor is their newest single and it's arguably the heaviest song that Sleep Token has released.
Yeah, and not just like for this album, just
Yeah, just
period.
in general. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like it's got some black metal vibes in it, like
It's got the weird, like, filtered vocals.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like, and he has a like he doesn't do a ton of like harsh vocals, but this song has quite a bit of it. So it is kind of funny to see like generally it seems like when bands like take off like that, they end up trying to like cater towards a more mainstream audience. So generally they lose a bit of the harshness and stuff. Whereas it seems like they're going that way and it's like, oh cool, like you're blowing up, but also like still making cool music that you want to make and not being like, well, now that we've got like 1.5 million monthly listeners or whatever, now we got to make like pop stuff, and so like that's cool to me that, and I'm glad that they're getting the the come ups that they are.
Yeah, because I know, like, when Sundowning came out back in 2019, like, This Night Does Not Belong to God and, like, The Offering, like, those songs sort of started doing the rounds on social media and stuff like that. And I feel like that's when they started to grow. And then This Place Will Become Your Tomb came out back in 21, and they didn't make a major step towards anything heavy exactly. They sort of kept the same sound. But still continued to grow. So, like you said, going back to Spirit Box, it seems like they took off songs like Holy Roller, which we don't need to rehash. I don't think, but like, sort of put them in a spotlight on satellite radio, like Sirius Octane and stuff like that. Started blowing that song up, and then now it's getting played in WWE arenas and all this crazy shit. And so then the music that they wrote after that, to me, is sort of catering more towards the mainstream. Like, they're trying to capitalize on their mainstream sort of spotlight that they have on them and make more, I don't know, mainstream sounding, quote unquote, metal. Where, like you said, Sleep Token seems to be going the opposite direction. So I am intrigued to see that. I'm curious because they are bigger right now than they've ever been.
Yeah, much bigger. They gained like, I think they actually are at like 1 point some million monthly listeners on Spotify now. They were like previously, I think they were at like 300,000 or something. So they like tripled in size in like a couple months.
Yeah, so they're blowing up now. So, and I don't think, because Spirit Box started blowing up with the singles off of Eternal Blue, and Eternal Blue was a
Also, that was
fine
bad
record.
math. It was like 5 times, not triple.
That's fine.
but
Eternal Blue was a good record. It was, so like, they were blowing up from the singles.
yeah,
Eternal Blue was already written. It gets released, And then it's not until after that, it's the music after that record that started becoming more mainstream because they're capitalizing on it. So
Yeah.
my concern isn't necessarily for this upcoming record for Sleep Token,
Yeah,
who is seemingly trending in a slightly heavier while still remaining true to their roots like direction. My concern is if they blow up big enough, are they gonna go like full like pop with it?
yeah, for the
Like,
next
you know what I
album.
mean? Because his vocal style lends very much to pop music. That's what I mean. You could, if you had different instrumentation, like put his singing over a beat, you could play that shit on pop radio. You could.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it, not the harsher vocal stuff, but like most of like Jaws, like one of the older Sleep Token songs, you could hear that on pop radio.
Yeah.
Like take out some of the like heavier parts of that song.
Honestly, if you uptune the guitars and cut off the, the the
Yeah.
thick strings,
Right.
you could put them on tour with Coldplay.
Right, exactly. So my concern is, okay, a lot of the music off of Sundowning and This Place Will Become Your Tomb has that mainstream appeal while also appealing to metalheads. This new record seems to be trending towards like that. It's still gonna, I think, have mainstream appeal plus appeal to metalheads, maybe even more so appealing to metalheads, since it seems like the progressive metal community has been gravitating towards Sleep Token as of late. So I think that this new record is gonna very much cater to everyone still, but also more towards the progressive metal fans. I'm concerned that now that they're in super mainstream appeal, that they're gonna take a huge step backwards and like make a pop record. Which again, do what you want, whatever. And this is how people make money, and this is your living, and make the music you want to make, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
But me personally, as heartbroken as I am over Spirit Box's direction, I would be equally heartbroken over Sleep Token if they were to go that route.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I think may make them different is like I think just like from the fact that they do like the mask shtick and like you don't know who any of the band members are, like they have this sort of like creepy aura to them that like they don't really lend well to mainstream.
Ghost.
And that yeah, that's true. But then like yeah,
That's what I mean. Like they could just be
yeah.
Ghost 2.0, which Ghost was always who they were. Like they've had their shtick, but they've always sounded like a glorified dad rock band. Like they're spicy Nickelback. So I mean, and I've heard Sleep Token called spicy Breaking Benjamin. And I actually don't hate that, so I'm not mad about that.
Well, I like Breaking Benjamin,
Right, that's
so
what I'm saying.
I'm all for that.
I
But
grew up loving Breaking Benjamin, so and I still like their music. So I'm fine with that comparison. But yeah, Ghost is essentially spicy Nickelback, and so yeah, but they dress up and they do like the whole like almost borderline black metal shtick with how they dress up. Speaking about Ghost, and they sound like nothing like what they look like. So Sleep Token,
that's
while they do have like the creepy aura about them, that doesn't necessarily mean they can't go full on pop rock with it. But I watched a live set of them playing some of the newer songs, and they get real into it. So I feel like they're enjoying what they're doing. I'm just hoping that the popularity that's sort of overcoming them right now doesn't, I'm hoping that what they're doing now to continue to do what they enjoy. You know what I mean? Like whether it's this or whether it's going full pop with it, whatever they want to do, whatever music they want to make, who am I to tell them,
Yeah. Well,
But
I think that's like also a good sign though that like they're making the stuff that they want to make, and while like it may not be viewed as approachable and like, but clearly it must be because of their explosion of listeners, but like that is hopeful to me that it's like, okay, well, you blew up when you made this, and so like you can kind of make stuff and people will listen, so like you don't have to make the radio friendly stuff, to like appease people. Like keep making the cool stuff that you're making, and whatever you guys like doing is cool, so keep on with that.
and why I like Sleep Token and why I like that they sort of bridge it's because they sort of bridge the gap, you know what I mean, from more mainstream rock to like the heavier progressive metal sound. Like they would be a good gateway band
For sure.
to like more more heavier progressive music for someone who maybe listens to Breaking Benjamin. You know what I mean? Like someone who is looking for a bridge into heavier music. Like if you have a significant other or a friend who listens to bands like Breaking Benjamin or whatever, I'm just going to keep going there because I like the spicy Breaking Benjamin comp. And they've always been trying to like get into, I'll put something on, let me listen to it. Like I feel like that's a good gateway band for someone who's more into straight line rock. So it's nice to have those sort of in your arsenal as a progressive metal fan who like, we're not a whole lot of our friends, family, whatever get the music that we listen to. And that's evident. I mean, we have family members that'll listen to the podcast, be like, I listened to your podcast. I didn't understand a thing that you were talking about, but it sounded good. Like, so a band like this is one that another one where I feel like I could show some of these songs to like my dad who listens to more like, Pink Floyd and Queen and Journey and
Rush like the early prog stuff.
Like earlier stuff. So like, it's nice to have those types of bands to be able to show people. So yeah, that's another thing about Sleep Token that I like. So hopefully they continue to be that bridge versus just taking a backward step just because of their mainstream appeal. Whew, that was a lot of Sleep Token talk. Take a breath from
Get
that.
It all out.
But
until the album comes out and then we start talking about it again.
I'm very intrigued to see how the rest of that record sort of shapes up.
Yeah, it's just based off the singles alone, it's definitely a strong album of the year contender for me.
Oh yeah, heavily. Even if every other song sucks, it's still probably going to be top 10. But another single that you showed me, and we're switching gears a little bit because I could probably keep going, but I don't want to. So Buried Alive. If you're listening to this, you might have heard of Buried Alive. He's essentially like I don't know if this is offensive to say this, like a bedroom artist, like a guy who basically like, it's like a one man, like Pliny. Pliny started out / still is like a bedroom artist. Like he's got his whole recording set up at a desk and he sits there and he just writes entire records and is way better than anything I would ever write with a professional setup. Not that his stuff isn't professional, but, because like his setup, Buried Alive setup, is worth more probably than my car. So,
yeah, I mean, to me, I wouldn't take it as offensive because it's like if they can make this quality of music out of their bedroom and like don't need a recording studio and stuff, like that's honestly more impressive to me than having to go to a studio to record.
Yeah, so Buried Alive's kind of like that. It's a guy with a guitar that just shreds and. A lot of his stuff for me is kind of gimmicky. He's got like a kill switch on his guitar and he does a lot of tappy shit and like, just it's talent, but it's like not necessarily what I'm into. So I did not check this single out initially because I just don't really follow him that much. But then you brought it up, so I checked it out today, and I'll let you lead on this one because you're the one that brought this one to my attention.
Yeah, so this track is called Hump 2.0, which is just an odd name for the song. But...
off of his upcoming record or EP called Silence of the Yams.
Yeah, and there was a track before this that came out with I think it was the vocalist from I Set My Friends on Fire. I want to say.
Yeah, I think that's what you said.
And the song was called Puree Evil. So, and I guess we didn't preface this before. So, like, for anyone who hasn't heard of them, it's Buried as in the fruit, BERR. It's BERRIED, alive. And, like, all of the, or the majority of songs seem to be, like, fruit and...
just punny.
Berry puns. This song, I didn't get to find out who the vocalist is, if it's him or if it's someone else.
Because there's no vocal credit that I could find anywhere.
Yeah, I didn't see a credit, so I'm assuming it's him. And I've not honestly listened to much Buried Alive. Like, I think I get occasional like TikTok feed
I was gonna say
stuff.
I see him more on social media, just popping up on TikTok or Instagram.
And like I always enjoy like the stuff from like it's a cool visually because like his guitars are like bright colors and he has the like illuminated kill switch and stuff. So it's like kind of a show piece. And I've never really listened to a lot of them, but it came up on my Spotify release radar, and the song is like, it's really heavy. It's got like a cool sort of like between the buried and me, like circusy sound to the guitars a bit. Um, the drums are like a bit heavy on the like programmed side.
Yeah.
But I think because there are vocals in this, it kind of takes it like you don't
It
notice it as
masks
much.
it a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Because like, honestly, everything I've ever heard from him has been instrumental. Obviously, that's mostly, I think, what he does. At least, again, like we said earlier, it seems like most of the snips of his music that we've caught are more on social media, like videos popping up versus actually going on Spotify and listening to his music. This was my first experience with vocals on a Buried Alive song.
Yeah,
And,
this was my second because of the Pure Evil one that popped up.
Right, yeah.
But
I've not listened to that yet, so.
But I like this one a lot more than that one. The like subject matter of the song, it seems like very serious, and it kind of reminds me of like a Bill Murray type thing where like the song name has nothing to do with the subject matter, and it's like the song name is like nonsensical, but then like
then it's like a very serious song.
Yeah. And stuff, but I definitely recommend checking it out. And it seemed like you were vibing with it. So.
I liked it a lot. Again, I'm not really partial to his music. I don't like the gimmicky stuff, but you know, if you put this on, didn't tell me who it was, and you know, like Matt said, it's got some Between the Buried and Me-esque sound to it at times. The vocals are well done. If it is him, that's impressive. I mean, he plays guitar very well. So to be able to do vocals like that is also impressive. Very heavy, like you said.
I honestly would be excited if that is his vocals, if he does more vocals.
Yeah, and the non-kill switch incorporated solos are really well done. The kill switch just it doesn't do it for me. I don't know, and he uses it a lot. Like so that's like I think that's just kind of what turns me off. Like it's one thing using it every once in a while is fine.
Yeah, like, I get that. Like some people don't like, you know, when you have metal that has like the crazy like whammy bar dive bombs and stuff. Like some people that's just too much.
Yeah, it's just not my preference, but overall this song is very good. Like it's going to make a playlist of mine. I'm definitely it's got a lot of replay value for me, so and understanding the fact that I don't like his music usually, that's saying a lot. So, definitely a great track. So definitely check that out. Yeah, I'm glad you showed me that because that's definitely. I'll have to look at the other one too, the Pure Evil, just to check that out.
The name is funny and it's pretty good too. I think this one takes the cake for me of the recent singles. But I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for like a full length or EP, whatever's supposed to come out. Because like
Silence of the Yams.
Yeah,
we'll have to look it up.
I guess did you read what if it's supposed to be an EP or?
All I saw was the name and I laughed and I didn't look any further. But yeah, so I think we could probably wrap up here. I mean, we talked about Sleep Token for a long ass time. So
yeah, I think that's all like the stuff that we've like recently been like jamming and worth reviewing and stuff, that
concerts on the horizon and all that stuff. I mean, we'll have some more information, some more things to talk about once we jump into actually going to shows again, and hopefully life
some free time
sort of chills out a little bit at some point. But yeah, I mean, it was good to hang out with you again, man. It was good to actually like do one in person versus remote. It's been fun, and
it's been a while since we've done one.
It has. Hopefully we can do this again soon, and hopefully we'll keep pumping the episodes out for you guys listening. As always, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks.